Story 1. Realizing your food delivery order is incorrect after a long day causes a similar level of disappointment. Story 2. When you finally sit down after a long day, blanket on, snacks ready, you hit play on the show you have been dying to watch, and the Wi-Fi is down or there is a power outage all of a sudden. Story 3. Finally getting invited out after feeling depressed and isolated at home for months. Getting all dressed up and excited, only to have plans canceled at the last minute. Story 4. Losing $20 or realizing you left something important at home and have to drive back to get it. Or trying something new and it tastes terrible. Story 5. As a mother, accidentally spilling or dumping breast milk that you have just pumped can be very upsetting. I cried the first time it happened. Story 6. Finally treating yourself to some Uber Eats or DoorDash, and the delivery either arrives inedible or never arrives at all, especially when the place you are ordering from has already closed. At that point, the refund does not really matter. Story 7. I ordered a build-your-own pizza once and accidentally clicked the no sauce button. That was a very dry pizza. Story 8. Having a good job interview and thinking you are very likely going to get the job, only to find out they chose someone else. Story 9. I feel like when you have a mental plan of what you really want to do after a long shift at work, you spend most of the shift thinking, at least when I get home, I can relax, watch my show, have that food, or whatever. Then, once you are home, you remember you have plans or other responsibilities you cannot put off. Story 10. Unexpected ingredients in delicious-looking meals. For example, the time I took a bite of a beautiful meatball and found raisins inside. Story 11. Having to check your bank account before going out and seeing you only have $100 until next Friday. Story 12. The person you have been seeing for some time, where you really think there is some potential, either messages you or tells you to your face that they are not feeling it. So you think, oh, on the inside, but put on a fake smile and say, sure, I totally understand. You walk away and think, oh damn, I really like them. Story 13. When you are at the end of the month without money and a different light comes on your car dashboard. Story 14. I would still say dropping your ice cream because you have paid for it, you have to clean it up, and you no longer have your ice cream. Story 15. Going into the kitchen only to realize that someone else ate the snack, junk food, or leftovers you were looking forward to all day. Story 16. The look you get when you meet someone in real life, such as on a date or an interview, and their face looks disappointed. They try to be polite, but they cannot hide it. The feeling is like knowing they are disappointed, similar to dropping an ice cream you were looking forward to. Story 17. Not having time to sit and sip coffee in the morning before getting ready makes the whole morning feel wrong. Story 18. Feeling excited when your paycheck arrives, then immediately having to spend it on bills, credit cards, and other necessary adult expenses. Story 19. I once bought a very expensive bottle of scotch that came in a box. When I picked it up to take it out of my car, the box fell open and the bottle smashed on the ground. I cried. Story 20. A movie you are really looking forward to, and then it receives bad reviews before you even get a chance to see it and judge for yourself. Story 21. Receiving a tax return or any form of unexpected money and then immediately having to spend it on something like a repair. Story 22. Dipping your biscuit in your cup of tea, only for it to become too soft and fall into your tea. Heartbreaking. Story 23. Pulling food out of the back of your refrigerator to make dinner and finding that it has spoiled because you forgot about it for too long. Story 24. When you go home tired expecting dinner, but your family has finished it all without leaving any for you. In our culture, we still live with our families even when we are already working. We also participate in paying bills, groceries, and other expenses. Story 25. Breaking your favorite sunglasses. I don't know why, but it just messes me up the same way. Also, when you have a nice knit sweater and one of the threads gets snagged and pulled, ruining it. That really sucks. Oh, and when you order takeout because you're craving something very specific and that thing is wrong, but you don't notice until you're home or the food is delivered. For example, I'll eat the quesadilla, but if I don't get the sour cream, I'm quietly devastated. It's not just about the food, but the lack of control over the situation. The hassle of getting it redelivered or going in to fix it is time-consuming when you're hungry and only have pre-made food for convenience, so everything just feels bad. Instant hungry and sad vibes. Story 26. I bought a 20-ounce T-bone steak at the store to grill on the barbecue in my backyard. I marinated it with Montreal steak spice and it was ready to go. When I went to put it on the grill using a fork, the inner portion of the fillet tore free from the bone and landed on the ground. I was inconsolable. Story 27. Running out of something important without realizing it until you need it, like not having milk or creamer for coffee in the morning, or dropping the last bite of a tasty food. Story 28. Forgetting about a birthday cake that you put on the roof of your car and then driving off. Source: I would rather not talk about it. Story 29. Feeling excited about the leftovers in the refrigerator, opening the refrigerator, and realizing I already ate the leftovers but forgot. Story 30. Crown Royal Rye had a magazine advertisement with a picture of a broken bottle on the ground. The seal was still on the lid. Have you ever seen a grown man cry? Story 31. Finally getting the time to play a video game you have been excited for, only to be so tired that you are crashing while trying to play it. Story 32. When the laundry pod does not fully dissolve and someone has left a tissue in their pocket, the laundry becomes a mess. Story 33. Asking your 6-year-old daughter to carefully take your just-purchased coffee with 2 hands and set it down on the step so you can grab groceries. 10 seconds later, she returns with a look on her face, only to find out she dumped it in the flower bed. Story 34. The missus made some kind of meringue pie for Christmas a couple of years ago that we were taking to my sister's for Christmas dinner dessert. As we were getting out of the car, she put it on the car's roof. I was getting the child out of the back seat, had a handful of bags, presents, and the child, and shut the car door with my foot. The moment it slammed shut, the plate started sliding. I watched in slow motion as it slipped and fell from the roof with nothing I, nor her, could do to stop it. The plate smashed, dessert ruined. The look on her face was the epitome of a child dropping ice cream. She was not happy for the next couple of hours and blamed me entirely for slamming the car door. Not the best Christmas. So, yeah, any kind of food spillage, especially something you're really looking forward to or really craving, hurts as much as that childhood experience. Story 35. Spending hours making broth only to forget the bowl under the sieve and pour it all down the drain. Story 36. I once dropped a brand new bottle of wine I received for my birthday while going from the building where I got it to my car. This was sad. Story 37. Waking up thinking it is Friday and realizing it is only Thursday, and you have 2 days until the weekend. Story 38. Working through your weekend and then not getting paid overtime because it is a different pay period. Story 39. Remembering a favorite food or drink from childhood but not having had it in adulthood, and then decades later finally getting a chance to experience that food again as an adult, can be quite emotional. You feel genuinely excited with nostalgic anticipation, counting down the seconds until that first bite after more than 30 years, only to find that it tastes mediocre at best. The simplest things can often be so disappointing. For example, I have not had what are called hoe cakes in 30 years, and I remember loving them as a child. I want to try them again, but I am afraid of ruining more of my childhood memories. For those who need clarification, hoe cakes, at least as I had them, are simply pancakes made with cornbread mix instead of flour. They were my favorite breakfast when I was a kid. Story 40. Opening a can of beer and getting soaked as half the beer turns into white foam spraying you all over. It is like spraying yourself with a miniature fire extinguisher. Story 41. I do not know if you have ever had a baby on infant formula, but one time, I accidentally knocked over the entire can of infant formula while I was shaking the baby bottle. Story 42. When you order food for delivery that you are really looking forward to, and it arrives without one of the key components. Story 43. Finally getting a decent savings built up, and your roof starts leaking, your dog has a stroke, and your car needs an expensive repair all in the same week. Story 44. Growing a brilliant plant from seed, nurturing it for months, then a big slug comes and eats it overnight. Curse you slugs. Story 45. A few years ago, I was having a very rough day, Everything was going wrong. I needed comfort. I went to the store and bought a 1.5-liter bottle of Woodbridge. I was looking forward to enjoying it when I got home. I pulled into the driveway and opened the trunk. My sport utility vehicle was on a slight incline, and the bottle rolled right out the back and shattered on the asphalt. I nearly cried. Story 46. Buying a warm case of beer at the gas station because it is at the front and you are in a hurry to get home and drink it. Story 47. You just changed all the sheets and have the other sheets in the washing machine. Then the child starts vomiting. Story 48. Ordering from Starbucks at Terminal A and waiting 20 minutes, only to realize you actually ordered from Starbucks at Terminal B and do not have time to walk a couple of miles and take a tram. Not that that has happened to me this month. Story 49. Dropping the first coffee of the day during an overnight shift made me cry hysterically once. Probably that. Story 50. You find a delicious new sauce that goes well with most foods, but it triggers your acid reflux. Goodbye, coriander chutney. Story 51. When you spend days preparing a hearty stock and use it to make a delicious soup, you leave it to cool before putting it away. Then, you wake up the next morning and find it still sitting on the counter because you forgot to put it in the refrigerator. Story 52. I mean, if you have been looking forward to that ice cream all day and it is all that is left, then yeah. But for me, it is when I am breaking down the dough station at work, moving the rack full of dough that is for the closing manager to use when they are by themselves, and either half or all of it falls during transfer. Or any time you are cleaning before ending your shift and a new mess has ruined your work. Story 53. Recently, I bought an expensive cocktail at a venue and immediately knocked it over. I had not even taken a sip yet. Luckily, the bartender took pity on me and made a new one for free, but this is exactly how I felt. Story 54. This is specifically pregnancy-related for me right now, but going to the donut shop and they do not have the donuts you want. This is my third pregnancy, and I still cry when this happens. Story 55. Receiving an email from Ticketmaster asking how you enjoyed Bill Cosby and realizing you bought tickets a year ago and completely forgot about it. Story 56. When your health insurance from work increases the monthly premium, deductible, and out-of-pocket maximum but decreases the amount they contribute to your health savings account. Story 57. When the children are finally in bed and you have been overstimulated all day, and you think you are about to get a moment to be alone and in silence, but your partner or spouse will not stop talking about something you do not care about. Story 58. For me, it was when I broke my Nintendo Switch Lite over my knee in rage and could not even blame anyone. I only needed a screen replacement, thankfully. Story 59. Thinking you have finished washing all the dishes and turn around to find the pot, pan, or tray you have been soaking sitting there menacingly. But dropping my ice cream would still make me sad, especially if it is a fancy brand you have been waiting forever to go on sale. Story 60. When I was still drinking, I once dropped a full 40-ounce bottle on my linoleum kitchen floor. It shattered, and that almost made me weep. Story 61. The other day, I brought home a frozen pizza to have for lunch the next afternoon, and I thought I put it in the freezer. I went to bed and woke up about 5 hours later to let the dog out. I walked into the living room, and there was my no longer frozen pizza. Story 62. Trying a new place instead of your regular place, and the food and drinks ended up being bad, making you sad because you wasted money. Story 63. When it's the last piece of the charcuterie board, and you're making the perfect bite of a focaccia crisp topped with layers of prosciutto, brie spread consisting of capers and lemon, a slice of habanero cheddar cheese, more prosciutto, and topped with an additional focaccia crisp. Right when you're about to put it in your mouth, your cousin decides to act like a fool and play fight, knocking it out of your hand, off your lips, and onto the floor. Story 64. 20 years ago, as an intern on a very tight budget, I finally splurged on a fancy coffee after weeks of walking past the coffee stand and dreaming of one. I got in line with all the people above my pay grade, and I received my beautiful whole milk latte topped with house-made whipped cream and Biscoff crumbs. I went to set it down while adjusting my purse, but the lid was not snapped tightly to the cup. The cup fell to the ground and spilled the latte everywhere. Everyone saw the mess I made, and I had to go through the day with sticky shoes and sticky pantyhose. I can still feel the disappointment, and I never did get my latte. Story 65. The person in the office position you wanted quits and you are next in line, but they choose the person who sits across from you as the more qualified candidate to fill that spot. You then try to take on the remaining responsibilities to get one last opportunity, but they give you all his duties as well with no extra pay. Story 66. This might only apply in Germany, but we have a deposit system. Basically, when you buy drinks, you pay about 8 to 25 cents more, and when you return the empty bottles and cans in a machine, you receive a voucher. You can give the voucher to the cashier and get your money back. One time, after I returned about 30 euros in bottles and cans, I forgot the voucher at the machine. I only noticed when I was at checkout, and of course it was gone. I cried. Story 67. Dime-sized chip in the windshield from a stray rock. It is not worth replacing the whole windshield, but no do-it-yourself kit will completely fix it. Story 68. When you think all day about the item you plan to pick up for dinner on the way home, only to find they are out of it. Story 69. Ordering your favorite meal from DoorDash and then when it arrives, you are either missing something or the order is incorrect. It is disappointing after looking forward to it, especially after a long day. Story 70. For my hourly workers, receiving a paycheck smaller than expected is frustrating. It is even worse if you are paid bi-weekly or monthly. Story 71. When you fix something in the house or car, and just as you are thinking you can do something for yourself, something else breaks. At least as a kid, I started with cream. Story 72. When you go to the drive-thru and don't check your order before going to your destination, only to open it and find something totally wrong. Story 73. As an adult, some days you wake up sad. Dropping your ice cream at the very least will elicit a chuckle. Story 74. Spilling the entire pan of food you just cooked right after finishing it. Now you either have to make it again or find something else. Story 75. The day rains and you get a free car wash. Then a bird just poops on your windshield right after the rain stops. Story 76. Buying a new game on sale, thinking you would like it, only to get bored and realize you are not having fun a couple of hours into the playthrough. Story 77. Having just microwaved leftovers, the dish was too hot. You think you have it, but you drop it on the kitchen floor instead. Story 78. Finding out your paycheck has been reduced by $300 to $600 because the company did not file their taxes. Story 79. Dropping my ice cream still brings me sadness, but I guess dropping my coffee or energy drink would be just as disappointing. Story 80. Taking out the groceries you just purchased and 2 days later wondering where the 2 dozen eggs were. Realizing that you left a bag with the eggs in the trunk of the car and the car was left out in the summer sun. Story 81. Thinking you have figured out the target circle bonus and your total is just shy of it because you calculated wrong. Story 82. I went to cook my chicken schnitzel for dinner last night and it did not smell right. That felt quite similar. Story 83. Sometimes on a bad day, dropping the treat you've been looking forward to all day, or even longer, is enough to make you cry, especially when it reinforces that you're alone and there is no one around who cares anymore. Your parents are dead, and you are living life by yourself. The only ones alive were taking advantage of you, left, or both. Some days, I just want someone to hold me and tell me everything is going to be okay. Now, I don't even have ice cream anymore. Story 84. Waking up cozy in bed, relishing the lazy Saturday before you, only to realize it is actually Friday and you have to get up for work. Story 85. Working hard for a promotion and it being given to someone who does not work as hard as you or is not as passionate. Story 86. After feeding your children dinner, bathing them, cleaning the kitchen, and doing the bedtime routine, the children are finally asleep. You sit down for the first time that day to have an hour to yourself. And as soon as you do, you hear, "Mom!" Story 87. Getting home after work at the end of a long week, washing up and putting on your comfortable clothes, grabbing a drink or a smoke, and sitting down on the couch to eat the dinner you ordered for delivery. However, the food is completely wrong, to the point where it is something you do not even eat. It is too late to swap it out or get something else because everything is closed. Story 88. I am 35 years old. I went to open a fun-sized Snickers and was doing it over the trash to throw the wrapper away, but I dropped my Snickers in the trash. Story 89. Looking forward to your Christmas bonus, only to find out it is a gift card to a restaurant you cannot eat at. Do not ask me how I know. Story 90. I don't experience that, but I create it for others around me. I have knocked over a single glass of water and got everyone wet at my table. I have also accidentally knocked beer out of someone's hand more than once. I am just great at creating chaos unintentionally. Story 91. When you have been using a hair product for over 10 years and it is suddenly discontinued without explanation or a replacement, it is frustrating. This happened to me with a Redken water wax product. My hair is still not the same. That product was amazing for curly, wavy hair. I will never understand why Redken discontinued it. People complain about this all over the internet. Not fair. Story 92. Working a large amount of overtime just to remember the company policy that when there is a holiday, any holiday pay is measured differently and hours worked as overtime throughout that week or period are still considered straight time. The holiday hours do not add to your total. They would rather remove your holiday hours to ensure you do not get any overtime pay. Story 93. Swing through the Starbucks event. You are running late and exhausted. Drive to the office. Drop a $6 latte in the parking lot. Story 94. This week, I was excited to drive through Starbucks for a hot drink because my nerves were shot and I was at my stress limit. I pulled in just as they shut the lights off. I cried unapologetically in the parking lot and then went home. Story 95. You finally manage to save a few dollars, and then the dog gets sick and it costs a lot in veterinarian fees. Story 96. Opening the fridge to eat leftovers and they are not there. Then you realize you forgot to put them in the fridge, and now they have to be thrown out. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.